All right, let's see if this is any better. And I'm hoping that people are able to hear us. Let's see, I think we didn't actually end up turning this microphone. Is that correct? We just had it in one position? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, here we are. I'm Suzy Thompson.
And
This
I'm
is,
Eric.
yeah, Eric Thompson. And we are both part of the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention, which is coming up in about a month. And the Alliance for California Traditional Arts has been a wonderful supporter of the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention for many years now, making it possible for us to make amazing connections with musicians from other parts of the country. And one of the most wonderful things about that has been the opportunity to make connections with older generation musicians that would never otherwise been able to come to the Bay Area. And so today we're going to talk about old time music, and we're going to play some of the tunes that we've learned from some of these older musicians, some of whom have come to the Bay Area and some who have not. So, what is old time music? Well, the way we are using that term, uh, we're using it to mean music that comes from the American South that's that's in a style that was not most popular. It's in a style that was played before World War II and is still being very much played. A lot of Southern styles of music that are popular now are styles that came up after World War II. For example, bluegrass, zydeco, R&B. All of those things were post-war styles of music. But the old-time music that we play as part of the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention is from an earlier time, but it's a music that's never stopped being played. It hasn't been a commercial kind of music. It tends to be more played on the back porch or in the dance hall, and on fiddle. Fiddle is a really important instrument. Guitar and banjo is very popular in this kind of music, and other instruments are used too: mandolins, harmonicas, sometimes piano, all kinds of instruments. So we're going to play a little bit of old time music for you and talk a little bit about where this music comes from and who we learned it from. And I think I mentioned earlier that one of the things that ACTA has done for the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention has been to make it possible to bring some wonderful older generation musicians here to the Bay Area. And one who came a couple of times was a man named Lee Stripling. And Lee has passed away now. But Lee was part of a long line of musicians from Alabama who played fiddle music. His dad, Charlie Stripling, was part of a duo called the Stripling Brothers that made a lot of records in the late 1920s and early 1930s. And Lee played a lot of their tunes as well. And so we'd like to play some for you and remember Lee Stripling. And we'll start off with one that's called Horseshoe Bend. It's this is a dance tune, I believe. that was called Horseshoe Bend. And as we were playing it, I was thinking about Lee and how much he would have enjoyed all of this. He would have loved Facebook. He would have loved all of these live stream shows of all kinds of music. I just remember how amazed I was when he would send me emails and with attachments and all kinds of things. And this is a guy in his 80s, and that's probably 20 years ago now. So he was a wonderful gentleman. Let's play another one of the Stripling Brothers tunes. So I think a lot of people do associate old time music with these kind of fast breakdowns like what I just played, but there is a lot of different other forms of tunes. And this one, it's called a rag. It's more like a march, really. I don't know what to call it exactly, but it's a great tune. And it's named after a town in northern Alabama where the Stripling Brothers were from. And the name of the town is Kennedy, and the name of the tune is the Kennedy Rag. The Kennedy Rag. So I'm just going to check and make sure that we're actually live here.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, you mentioned, playing on back porches and dances, but also musicians like to get together for what they called conventions. And they often had a contest, but convention is the word that tells you what they really wanted to do was get together and play together and hear each other play.
Well, I can't quite figure out how to get to. Well, that's not it. Let's see.
That's not us.
Well, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just gonna. I'm sorry if you're making comments or have questions. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer those. Let's see if I can try one more thing. I would have thought this would be it, but it just gives me manage page, which I don't want manage page.
We need Lee here to show us how to do it right.
No. Oh, maybe this is going to get it. One moment. Did you see what Allegro did with my phone? Oh, it's over there.
There.
All right, well, sorry about that.
All this technology is so convenient.
Yes, if Lee Stripling was only here, I'm
That's
sure
what I
he would be
said.
able to solve our problem. Well, we're going to just continue along. So Eric was talking about the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention, and this year it's going to be all online, and it'll be September 24th through 27th. And if you go to berkeleyoldtimemusic.org, you can read all about it. We're going to have concerts and jam sessions and workshops and stuff for children, all kinds of things. So check that all out. And we'll play a few tunes from West Virginia for you now. One thing that's really...
Oh, we're not going to do the California Blues?
Sure, we can do that.
Well, you told
yeah.
them.
Yeah,
you
let's
told
do it.
them that we were going
Let's
to.
do another Stripling Brothers tune, and this one is called a blues. It's called a California Blues, but it's not really a blues. I don't exactly know how to describe it. And Lee Stripling told a funny story about this tune. So at one point he asked his dad, Charlie Stripling, who made up this tune, he said, "Dad, why did you call it the California Blues? You've never been to California." And his dad said, "Well, we had to call it something." So... So I don't think Charlie ever did make it to California, but Lee sure did. He was right here in this living room, in fact. I get the blues every time my sweetie leaves me. I get the blues every time she says goodbye. I get those doggone left all alone again blues. I like dogs, I'm fond of rabbits. I like goldfish and I like my habits. I love my baby, sweetest little baby. I love my baby and I don't mean maybe. I get the blues every time my sweetie leaves me. I get the blues every time she says goodbye. I get those doggone left all alone again blues.
Susie, I saw that someone joined us and commented. Someone named Adam. I'm not sure if it was Adam Tanner or.
I'm going to try a different way here and see if this will work. That's not working.
Well.
Oh, let's see. Let's try this. Okay, there's the active page. Events, notifications, and don't use.
Well, not sure, but I did see something pop up down there in the lower left corner.
Well, I don't know what that was. So
Oh well.
I think we're just going to have to abandon that, and I'm very sorry. We'll look afterwards when we have more time to search. I don't know why we're not finding it, but we're not. So I mentioned that old time music, the kind that we play, is from the American South. And the American South is a big place. There's lots and lots of different regions, and there are a lot of different regional styles. So those first three that we played are all from northern Alabama, and we're going to play a few that are from West Virginia. It's common to name tunes after local places, and these are going to be two that are named after a river, the Cheat River. And this first one is from the Hammonds family, and it's called the Three Forks of Cheat. Not to be confused with the Three Spoons or the Three Knives of Cheat. The Three Forks.
Susie, when you talked about the forks, spoons, and knives, remember having a wonderful dinner at the Cheat River Inn?
I do. I do. we had trout almondine, and it was local trout caught right there in the Cheat River in West Virginia. Wow. Yeah. So, for any violinists or fiddlers out there, I just want to point out that this other fiddle that I picked up is in a different tuning. And using these alternate tunings is very common in this music. It's tuned A, E, A, C sharp. And sometimes this tuning is called calico, after a tune called Calico, but most commonly it's known as Black Mountain Rag tuning after another tune called the Black Mountain Rag. You can do all kinds of. It has a whole chord there, so you get a lot of resonance, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to play these other tunings. But let's play another tune about the cheat. This one comes from a player named Mose Kaufman. And he called it Old Jim Short's tune, but we've recently learned that it has a name, which is Wadin' the Cheat. And I don't know if it's Wade in the Cheat, but I think it's wading the cheat. And he played this solo on the fiddle, but we Eric did a really nice setting for the guitar with it. So we'll play it as a duet for you.
Boy, you can really hear the old Celtic roots of the music in that one.
Definitely. Yes, that's a really good point. This music does have its roots in Irish and Scottish music, but there's also a lot of African American influence and Native American influence, and it's a little hard sometimes to point out exactly which elements of which tune come from which place, but it's definitely is a uniquely American blend that makes up this old time music. So I mentioned that there's a lot of different regional styles, and one style that we're going to be featuring this year for the first time at the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention is Cajun music. We're going to be bringing David Greeley, who is a French-speaking Cajun fiddle player and singer who grew up and still lives in southwestern Louisiana, and he'll be performing and he'll be teaching a workshop, a Cajun fiddle workshop, and also a Cajun singing workshop. So I thought, in his honor, we would play a few Cajun tunes for you. And the Cajun music really is 100% dance music. There was an unaccompanied ballad singing tradition, and there were some other vocal traditions too, but those kind of died out. But this dancing Cajun dance tradition has not died out. Au contraire, it is alive and kicking. Um, and for about 20 years, Eric and I played right here in the Bay Area with a wonderful Cajun accordion player who grew up around Eunice, Louisiana. His name was Danny Poulard, and we had a band with him called the California Cajun Orchestra that played in the Creole community around here and a lot at Ashkenaz Music and Dance Community Center in Berkeley, and yeah, just played a lot of good old dance music. So we'll play a little for you right now. And mostly nowadays, what they like to do is the waltz and the two-step. So we'll play a waltz. And this is one that we learned from a man that we visited several times in Southwest Louisiana back in the 1970s. And he's long gone now, but he was a wonderful singer and player. Cheese Reed. Wallace was his given name, but everybody called him Cheese. And he played this song for us called the Round Prairie Waltz. Horace Reed. Love remembering that guy. Another older player that we got to spend time with in Southwest Louisiana in the 70s and the 80s, and I guess maybe even into the early 90s too, was a man named Dennis McGee. And even though he had a kind of an Irish name, he was as Cajun as you could possibly be. And he was one of the very first musicians to make phonograph records back in the 1920s. He made a lot of very important records, fiddle duet records with a couple of second fiddlers, and then he also made a lot of extremely important records with a African American Cajun, which down there is known as Creole, accordion player and singer, the legendary Amédée Ardouin. So we'll play several of his tunes, and then we're going to play a two-step that's commonly played now. And this one has this. It's called the Lake Arthur Stomp, and it has three parts. And the first part is one that Dennis McGee recorded in about 1928 or 1929 under another name, which I cannot remember which one it was. And the second part was made up by a man that we also visited in Louisiana named Varis Connor. It's the one that goes way up the neck. And then I think that the third part was added by Dewey Balfa, who was a great, great fiddler and with whom I apprenticed in Louisiana. So the first three are, let's see, the first one's a reel called the Reel de Coquin. The second one is called the McGee One Step, and the third one is a very odd little tune called the Shoe Peak. So we'll start off with a little Dennis McGee for you. Yeah, Lake Arthur Stomp. So, I've talked a lot about old time musicians from other places, but we have some great old time musicians right here in California, and we have had some great old time musicians who are no longer with us. And one of that we really loved a lot, and who was a frequent performer at the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention from the Central Valley, Kenny Hall, blind mandolin and fiddle player. And his music lives on in the music of people like Harry Leedstrand and
Terry Barrett.
Terry Barrett, thank you very much, and others as well. So I want to play a tune that I always associate with Kenny. I've never heard anyone but him play it. I mean, I've heard other people play it, but they all learned it from Kenny. It's called Hob Die. Kenny said he learned this from the playing of a woman named Clara, and I'm blanking on the last name, who played it on the piano. So, Hob Die, that's all I know about it. I'd like a D from you, please.
Susie, did you mention that Kenny was blind?
I believe I did.
Yeah, because little Berkeley connection. Kenny attended the school for the blind right here in Berkeley.
That's right. He used to wander around in those hills up there above campus. Day or night, it was all the same to him. Yeah. We miss that guy. Well, this year, we are going to be bringing to you virtually from a very musically fertile part of the South. Quite a few musicians from the region where North Carolina and Virginia kind of all meet near Fry's, Virginia. Actually, they say Fry's in the summer, Freeze in the winter, and also around Galax. And two of the musicians that are coming are Eddie Bond, who is a National Heritage Award winning fiddler, singer, and he plays a lot of other instruments too. He's from around Freeze or Fry's. And also, we're going to be bringing Richard Bowman and his group, the Slate Mountain Ramblers. They're from around Galax, and both of these fiddlers have been real stalwarts in the fiddle convention culture down around their region, where they've won more ribbons than they can count, I'm sure. So I'd like to play you a tune that's commonly played around there. A lot of people play it. I know Eddie does, and I bet that Richard probably does too, and it's called Fortune. Yeah. Once I had a fortune, I put it in my trunk. I lost it all at gambling one night when I got drunk. Fortune, I had it. Fortune, I lost it. Fortune, I lost it one night when I was drunk. So one thing that I know we've missed a lot during the shutdown, and I know that everybody in the old time music community really misses, is the opportunity to get together with other people to play music. We have been playing some with friends and neighbors, but there's a difference between playing distanced and massed and just playing knee to knee like what we're doing right now.
We're a pod.
Yeah, we're a pod. So we're thankful for that. But we will offer the chance to jam using Zoom as part of the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention. This year there's going to be a lot of Zoom jam sessions, and it's going to tell all about that at the BOTMC website, which is berkeleyoldtimemusic.org. Let's see, what else was I trying to say? Well, we'll play a few more for you here. Another older generation artist who came to the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention, I think he came 3 times actually, was another National Heritage Award winner, a great flatfoot dancer named Thomas Maupin, who is from Tennessee. And I first saw Thomas dance at Merle Fest, which is a gigantic festival in North Carolina, where Eric and I were performing, and Thomas was dancing in the traditional music stage, and I just was blown away by his dancing. Some dancers, no matter what genre it is, they have the ability to invest even the smallest little movement with a deeper meaning, and Thomas Maupin has that amazing gift. And one time we were at another festival with him, and we asked him to dance with us on this one song, which we're about to play for you, on our set. And we asked Thomas to dance, and we also asked an incredible young dancer named Nick Garais, who does all kinds of step dancing, to dance also. And so Nick asked if he could hear the tune, and when he heard the tune, he said, well, that's a kind of an odd tune. I don't know if Thomas is going to be able to dance to that, but Thomas totally was able to dance with that. He could dance to any kind of music. And when I play this for you now, I'll be closing my eyes and I'm seeing Thomas doing his amazing slithery kind of dance that he did to this tune. And the tune is from northern Louisiana, from a player named Hyder Colvin, who recorded it back in the 20s. And it's named after a town there. It's called a Monroe Stomp.
Yeah.
The Monroe Stomp. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're going to play one more tune for you, and please check out the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention website, which is berkeleyoldtimemusic.org, and the dates are September 24th through 27th, and we're going to have all kinds of wonderful jam sessions, concerts, lots and lots of workshops, instructional workshops, and some lecture demonstrations too, and special concerts for children, and even some clogging workshops. So you can learn to clog in the privacy of your own home. So check out our website, and thanks again to ACTA for making it possible for us to play for you today, and also for making it possible for us to have the Berkeley Old Time Music Convention be what it is, and that's a lot of that is thanks to the Alliance for California Traditional Arts. So many, many thanks. And we're going to close off with one from another older generation fiddler who came to Berkeley twice with funding from ACTA, from North Carolina, Western North Carolina, a legendary fiddler and just a sweet person and a really amazing player. And he played right here where I'm sitting in this room. Benton Flippin was his name. And we're going to play a tune that he made up called Sally in the Turnip Patch. Yeah, so thanks again for listening.
I'm going to go out to my turnip patch.
That's right. I think after we get done, Eric's going to harvest the turnips in our garden, aren't you?
That's right.
That's right. All right, here we go.